All right, so what we're going to do today, guys, is we're going to start with a, a video series, and I'll make a playlist for this so we can build all the different components. I've got some nukes right there and a couple of supers down there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go step by step. We're going to start at the base, and we'll make the hive stand, and that's what this video will be about, how to make the hive stand. And then as the season goes on, I'll make other videos showing you how to make uh, the other parts of the hive. So the base of the hive, the very first part of the hive is a stand, a hive stand. So that's what we're going to start with, and we're going to use a 1x4. This is a 1x4 by 8 foot long. That's the lumber I use to do the hive stands with. And let me get everything set up, and then we'll get started with it. Okay, so like I said, I'll do each part of the hive from the hive stand all the way up to the top cover, but only as I need to do it. And the reason for that is because I got to work, I got other projects I got going on. Plus I'm working the bees. Plus I just got so much things going on. Now on these boards here, on the hive stand, the first thing that we always do is bust out the old speed square here and just square off that bottom. Just make sure it's good and square. And if there's any chunks missing or whatever, cut all that off. But just get that good and square because you want to start with a square spot there. The other thing you want to do is you want to look at your knots. What kind of knots you have here in your board, and what all is missing from your board, like that right there. And you're going to want to cut all that stuff off. Now, in this case, the hive stand is 3.5 inches tall at the 45 mark, which I'll explain when we get there. But everywhere else is going to be 2 3/8. And so when I cut this, if I cut it from this side, it's going to put the 2 3/8 right dead smack in that knot, which means that knot will fall out, which means you're going to have a hole. But if I cut it from this side, then that knot will stay in the board, but I won't be cutting through the knot, so the knot won't fall out. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that this is the bottom of the board. We'll just put a little B here so I know. But again, the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut this off square, and then I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I got it cut square now, and you can see there it's just a square cut. And what we're going to do here is just cut 26 inches. Now you're going to need two boards 26 inches long, 1x4. You can go ahead and rip it, but really I'm telling you, it's just a whole lot easier if you leave everything 3.5 inches for right now, and just go ahead and pull your 26 inches. And I'll show you on the tape measure. Well, I'm pretty sure everybody knows where 26 is, but just 26 inches even, because we're going to cut off the excess later. But 26 inches, really you need about 25.5, but just cut however many you're going to need for however many you're building. I'm going to be doing, I'm going to build 6 of them for the 5-frame nukes, and I'm going to build 1 for the 10-frame hive. So I'll show you both, but I'll put numbers up for you guys. The first thing that you need is for everything that's going to be the hive stand is just a 1x4 by 8 foot long. That's all you got to get, 1x4 by 8. But go ahead and cut you 2 of them 26 inches long, and I'm going to go ahead and cut all of them that I need, which is I need 12 for the 6 5-frame nukes, and then I need 2 more, so 14 for the 10-frame hives. Doesn't matter if you're building a 5-frame, 8-frame, 10-frame, 12-frame, 40-frame, whatever you're doing. You need 2 of them 26 inches. Okay, we're not cutting the end pieces yet, the front and the back. Those are going to be specific to the size, whether it's 5 frames, 8 frames, 10 frames. Okay, but you will need 2 of them 26 inches long per box that you're going to build. So again, doesn't matter the frames, 5-frame, 8-frame, 10-frame, 2 of them at 26 inches, no matter what. So for me, I need 14 altogether, so I'm going to go ahead and get all those cut, and then I'll be back with you. Actually, I'll go ahead and cut it and then turn down the volume. But I pulled my 26 inches. Now, notice that my guard is put up here. very dangerous. You know, don't do that at home, guys. You know, I'm a carpenter. It's what I do for a living. I keep it that way. It's just easier for me for what I do. You know, I have to make sure I put the saw down right so that it don't get bound up and stuff or cut things and all that kind of stuff. But I pull my 26 inches and then go ahead and cut it. And then again, just pull 26 inches and cut. Just keep doing that until you have everything cut. Now on an 8-foot board, you're going to see here 26 inches. Let me go ahead and mark that real quick. I'm going to have that much left over, okay? But that's okay because we're going to need that for the side, or for the front and the back. So go ahead and cut them all, guys. I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you guys when I get them all cut. Okay, so I've got them all cut. Again, they're all 26 inches long, all of them. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the speed square and I'm going to figure out what's going to be my top, because the top's where we're going to start the 45. But we're going to need 2 3/8 up, so if there's any knots or anything, you got to make sure that, you know, the knots, you're not going to cut this groove through the knot. So in this case, this is going to be my top right here. So all I'm going to do is create a 45-degree angle there at the end of the board, just like so. Let me show you real quick. So it's just 45-degree angle at the end of the board there. So I don't know, you can see right there, you just use that 45 side of the speed square, make you a 45 angle. Now, the next thing is you want 2 3/8 up from the bottom, from this point right here up. So we'll go 2 3/8. Now I'm gonna cut mine on here, but you can use your regular saw there, circular saw. Okay. So you can see there's my 45. This is where my 2 3/8 rip is gonna be. But what we're gonna do, let me get my square here. Right here where this angle stops, right here at the top of the board, 3.5 inches up, you wanna draw a line straight down like so. So it's gonna look, let me make sure it's in the camera for you real quick. Okay, so you should end up with 1 3/8 inches right there. But what the most important part is from up here to from the bottom of the board up is 2 3/8 to that line. So again, just draw you a 45 angle starting on the bottom back to the top. Where it hits the top, you're gonna go straight down, and then you're gonna rip all of that out. So this section right here, it is going to get cut out all the way down to the end of the board, all the way down, okay? And then this is going to get, this part right here will get cut off as well, this part right here. So you're going to cut that out, that whole groove, and that out, and I'll show you here real quickly. This right here, we'll just cut it with a circular saw. I mean, we can set up a jig, but most people don't have time to do jigs and all that kind of stuff, so we'll just take this right here and cut it. So you have, it looks just like that now. You've got your, right on that 45 line. Wear safety glasses, guys. Again, you know, I do this stuff for a living. I know how to look at the saw so the debris don't come back and hit me in the face, but wear safety glasses, guys. It's just, especially if you don't do this every single day of your life. But cut your 45 off, and then again, on me, I'm just, if I was gonna use my table saw, I mean my circular saw, what I would do is go ahead and mark 2 3/8. All the way down the length of it, and then just take my table saw, clamp it down, use a clamp, don't hold it, use a clamp, hold it right there, and then just take my table saw and rip it. And the way you get a straight line, guys, when you're ripping these, is you get your blade set to where you want it on there. And so I got it on my line, and then you take your finger on the plate of the saw, and you hold it up against this edge of the board. And then that way, wherever it is, you're gonna rip it the same all the way through. You're not gonna have a wavy line, okay? I'm gonna use the table saw just because, it's quicker and I got a lot to do. So I'm just gonna use the table saw. Like, uses a push stick, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Plugged in. Always unplug it when you're changing blades or doing anything with these things, guys. Just don't risk it. It's not worth it. So we'll get this turned on. Like I said, I'm only going to rip it to about here. Okay, like I said, I'm only going to rip it to here because the blade goes back farther. So on that side it's only ripped to here, but on this side it's ripped to here. So you don't want to end up going past that mark. So from here I'll just use a jigsaw and cut that and that. Plug it in. And again, I'm gonna cut right up that line there, and then right down that line. So first thing I'm gonna do is cut this line. Then I'll cut it the rest of the way down this line. And that's what each one of your boards are going to look like right there. Okay, so you got 26 inches from this tip to here. We're going to cut that down in a minute. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and do that. And what you want to do from here now, your hive stand, right? That's what we're building. And then the bottom box, you want 22 inches butting this. You want to butt into this, and you want 22 inches. Completely butt into it, and you want 22 inches to the end of the board. That's why we cut it a little long. And then all we're going to do is cut that off square, and your side pieces are done on your hive stand. Okay, that's all we're going to do. 22 inches, and then cut it off. Let me go ahead and cut that for you guys. So that's the completed piece right there. That's what you're looking for. You need 2 of these per hive box. No matter if it's 5 frame, 8 frame, 10 frame, doesn't matter. They're always going to be from this point to this point, 22. You start out with a 26-inch board. That gives you a little half-inch play down here to play with in case, whatever comes up, comes up. You cut your 45 off wherever that 45 hits the top of the 1x4, because a 1x4 is 3.5 inches thick. In this case, it's 3 9/16, so it's a 16th longer. But wherever that hits, right there, that's where you want to go straight down, and then from that point on, you want from the bottom of the board up to your rip 2 3/8 inches all the way down the end of this board. Okay, so make you 2 of those, and I'll be back with you when I get all of mine cut. I'm gonna change some things up on you. I apologize. I told you to go 2 if you're gonna use a table saw, to go 2 3/8 to the ins from here, from the dill to the inside of the blade, 2 1/8. Really, what you want to do is go 1 1/8 from this thing to this side of the blade, and instead of running it through as I was at 2 3/8 this way, you're gonna flip it over this way, and then you're gonna run 1 1/8 all the way through. And again, stopping short of that line, that's going to be right here. Okay, you want to stop short, stop back here, and then use the jigsaw to cut that little last part out. And the reason you want to do that is because you know, the bottom of the frame of the hive, the bottom section of the hive is going to sit in that 1 1/8 inch groove, and you want that to be the same and consistent on every board, on every sideboard. So that's the side of the hive stand like that. Let me show you one of these real quick. Hang on. All right, so if you look at the sideboard here, you'll see at the bottom board sits in that 1 1/8. So you want that to come out the same, so that when you cut, so when you put that bottom board together right here, you want this part right here, the actual landing part, to come out flush with this 45. So you want this 1 1/8 from here to here, from the top to there, to be the same on every single board that you do. Okay, that's so do 1 1/8. Don't come up from the bottom. Don't come up from the bottom up 2 3/8. Instead, come down from the top 1 1/8, and make that the same on every board. So you got exactly 1 1/8. So if you're, for example, if your 1x4 is 3 9/16 inches like mine is, then I'm going to be a 1/16 inch off if the other 1x4 was 3 1/2. You see what I mean? So just come down from your top 1 1/8. That's what you want to make that consistent. So I just wanted to update you on that, and one other thing as well. Okay, so like when you cut this part out, that's what you're cutting out, is that piece right there. When you cut that out, keep that, because you can use that for like an entrance reducer or other things. You can just rip it down to the size you need. Don't throw it away. It's not waste. Always save your pieces. Just stack them up. You can use them somewhere else. And a couple other things. For example, this board right here, I have a problem. I chose to do it this way because I didn't want to end up cutting. If I would have went from this point down this way, I'd have cut through that knot and had a big gap there. The other problem is 2 3/8 up the way I did do it. If I would have done it the other way, I'd have to cut through this knot. If I do it the way I'm doing it on this way, I'm going to have to cut through this knot. Okay? So, got a problem here. We're going to have a gap right here when it's all said and done. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cut it, and then I'm going to glue that back in there. I'm going to actually glue that in before I paint the boards. Okay, you'll see when I get there, I'll show you again. But just go through every one of your boards and make sure before you cut them, you know, that 1 1/8 off, make sure you're cutting it to where you're not going to cut through the knots. The other thing is, let me see if I can find one here. Hold on, give me 1 minute here. I'm looking through these boards. See, for example, I'm going to cut that out, okay, because I'm going to come down 1 1/8, and that's going to be below that, and then I'm going to cut that nonsense out of the board. Let me see if I can find an example of an edge missing. Okay, like this one right here, you can see, right here you got bark missing. So what I did is I put my 45 to where all that missing bark is going to get completely cut out, and you know, your hive stand won't look all junky. So in this case, that became the top. So again, when you're going through all these boards and you're marking them, look for the glitches in the board, and try to get it to where you can cut those glitches out. So anyway, I'm going to continue on. I just wanted to update you on that, to give you ideas of what you're looking for. You always want to try to cut out the nonsense, the no good pieces. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to cut the boards that go in the back. And all you want to do is just make sure they're the same thickness as that is. In my case, it's going to be 2 7/16. In other cases, it might be 2 3/8. It might be 2 1/2. Just take your tape measure and check what it is. For example, in my case here, you've got 2 7/16. That one mark right before the half. 2 7/16. So I'm gonna rip all mine 2 7/16. I'm just gonna take that board right there and rip it 2 7/16. The excuse me, the total length, if you're going to make a 5 frame, if it's for a 5 frame nuke, you're gonna make it 8.5 inches long. If it's going to be an 8 frame, then you want your end pieces to be 13 inches long. And if it's going to be a 10 frame, you want them to be 15.5 inches long. So I'll throw the numbers up on the screen, but one more time. 5 frame, 8.5 inches. 8 frame, 13 inches. And 10 frame, 15.5 inches. So if you're going to make any other size than those three, then you have to decide for yourself what those measurements need to be. So that's what I'm going to do next. Like I said, I'm just going to rip this down to 2 7/16, and then I'm make sure I got my square end, which I do in this case, and then just start pulling my 8.5, 8.5, 8.5 cut, 8.5 cut, 8.5 cut. Again, I'm making 5 frames, so they're 8.5 inches. But I am making 1 10 frame, so I'm going to need one of them 15.5 inches. Okay. So I'll cut one 15.5. The rest of them are all going to be 8.5 in my case. It'll be 13 inches if you're making, again, if you're making an 8 frame nuke or 8 frame hive box. So that's the next step, to go ahead and cut the end pieces. Okay, so I got mine ripped down to 2 7/16. Now you're just going to hook the end of the board, and you're going to mark, in my case, 8.5, which is that big mark in the middle there. See that there, 8.5. That's the big mark right smack in the middle. And again, if it's going to be an 8 frame, you want that 13-inch mark right there. And then if it's going to be a 10 frame, you're going to make yours 15.5, which is that center mark right there. So whatever size you're making, you gotta come up with your own numbers. But I'm just gonna mark it, and then I'm gonna square it off, cut it, mark it, square it off, cut it, mark it, square it off, cut it, mark it, square it off, cut it, until I have all 6 of mine at 8.5, and then I need one of them at 15.5. So let me get that done. Okay, so there you have it. I've got my 6 at 8.5. There's 6 of them there at 8.5. And I got one of them at 15.5. Again, I'm making one 10 frame nuke or 10 frame hive box and 6 5 frame hive boxes or 5 frame nukes. Now, nukes can be built however you want to. You don't need to make a hive stand for a nuke, okay? I like to. That's just me. You don't even need a hive stand on any beehive, okay? It's optional. It's up to you. I just like to have them for my setups. That's just the way I am. So the next thing we're going to do is go back to the sideboards over there and put the little notches in them. So what we want to do with these is you want to figure out what's going to be the outside. So let's just say this is the outside of the board. Okay, this is going to be the outside of the frame. Then we want to go on the inside, so that would be this side, and we want to come in 3/4 inch, and we want to go down 3/8 of an inch. So you're going to have a little dado cut that's 3/8 deep into the board, going down the board. So coming from the inside edge, going toward the outside, 3/8 of an inch deep, and you want to come from the back of the board in 3/4. And the reason for that is because when you build your box, see, you'll have, let me push that down there and just set that like that. So you'll have that like that, but we want this one to butt into the notch that we're going to make. So it needs to be 3/4 back and 3/8 into the board, 3/8 deep. That's half of 3/4. So 3/8 in, and you want it on the inside. See, so if that's the frame, you want it on the inside cut. You do not notch the outside, you notch it from the inside. 3/8 toward us, 3/4 from the back, going toward the front of the hive. And that's the front of the hive. So let me mark one real quick and I'll show you. Okay, so this is what it'll look like. It's going to be 3/8. You can see the little mark there, 3/8, and 3/4 from the back. So you're going to come from the back, 3/4 inch, and you only want to notch it back to 3/8 mark. That's it. You're just going to take that little bitty chunk right there completely out, and it's only going to be 3/8 inch deep, just like that. So it'll come down and over just like that, and then when you're done, then your other board will slide right into that notch. It'll go in halfway, so it'll go right to that other mark there, just like that deep, right there. See what I'm saying? It'll come into that mark, but it'll go right into there. So you're just making a little rabbit's notch or dado cut right there. That's all you're doing. So you can just run your saw 3/8 deep right here, and then pick it up on its edge and run your saw 3/4 inch deep down to 3/8 mark if you want to do it that way. I'm just going to swap this out for a 3/4 inch dado blade, and then when I have that, then I'll just set this right here like that up against the blade, and we'll just pull this over, you know, to where we can where I have a 3/8. I'll have the dado blade on there, and I'll have this clamped. I'll clamp this to this, just like that. Clamp there and clamp it there. I'll have a 3/4 inch dado blade here, and then all I'll have to do is set the height of the blade at 3/8 deep, and then I can just run each one of my boards through that dado blade, and it'll be 3/8 of an inch deep, and it'll have a notch out 3/4 wide by 3/8 deep, going on the inside of the board. So what you need to do is determine what's going to be the inside of every one of your boards, and then put an eye on it. Just write an eye, because that's the side you want to dado. Do not dado the good side, the outside of the board that's going to be showing to everybody. That's not what you want dadoed. You want to make sure you dado the inside. I can't stress it enough. Alright, so let me go ahead and dado all those, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, so again, I use a dado blade, so that's going to be my 3/4 wide, and I've got it set 3/8 deep. Now let's see if we can see it. That's 3/8 deep. Okay, so when I slide the board through, let me grab one. It's a whole nother day, guys. I mean, I only have so much time in a day. So now what I'm going to do, like I said, we're going to mark the inside, right? We got the eye. The eye will go down, just like that. And then I'll just slide it right through the dado, and it'll cut my dado into each one of them. So that's how I'm going to do mine. You guys can do them however you want. You can take your saw, set the depth to 3/8 on your circular saw, set the depth to 3/8, and then just cut the line, back up, cut the line, back up, and just keep cutting it until you dado the whole thing. You can also take it, cut it 3/8 deep here, and then turn it up on its side. Make sure you attach it to something so that it's held in place, you know, like right here. You know, mount it there and put your clamps on it, and then you can run it 3/4 deep at that 3/8 mark, and that'll do it as well. So there's all sorts of ways to do it, but because of how many I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and use the dado blade to do mine. So I'll run one through on camera for you, and after that I'll just go ahead and get them all cut. Give me 1 second to get set up. Alright, so I got it plugged in. Again, I'm going to take the eye side. It's going to be the eye, the side with the eye on it is going to go down. That's the inside of the frame. I clamp this board to this because that'll give me, that allows this blade to be on the edge of this, which will make, that's my sacrifice board. That's what they call it, a sacrifice board. That way when I run that through there, it's exactly 3/4. So just so you understand what's going on there. So if you can see the whole thing, hopefully you can. That's the outside, and then that's the inside, and that's what the inside is gonna look like. So I have 3/4 of an inch, as you can see there. 3/4 of an inch. You can see it on that mark. That's the 3/4 mark. The big line between the half mark and the 1 mark. Okay, and it's 3/8 of an inch deep. Hopefully you can see that. 3/8 of an inch deep. So that's how you want it. However you can do it. If you're using the the table saw, that's fine. If you're using a circular saw, however you want to do it, guys, that's up to you. I just wanted to show you how to do it. Now I'll get back to you as soon as I get done with these. As soon as I get done cutting all these. All right, so I got all those cut. Let me show you real quickly. See, that's why you call it what you call it. But so you have to have a set, right? They need to be facing the opposite direction because when you put them together, you know, for a 5 frame, that's how it's gonna look. Right there, that'll all butt in like that, all perfect. Glue and nail that. See what I'm saying? So I mean, you gotta have, put it like that for you, so you can see how that worked out. But the other thing you can do, and it's up to you. Most people don't, but you can cut you another 2 3/8 or whatever your size is, and just stick one right there in the middle. You're gonna take off 3/4 of an inch off of this length if you want to put one in here. So, in other words, if you stick that together and you actually measure that, like remember these are 8.5, so then these right here in between, you can see are 7. Oh, sorry, you can't see, but now you can see 7 3/4. Hold on, hard to do one-handed. But you got 7 3/4 of an inch in between there. Because that's 8.5 minus 3/4, 7 3/4. So if you want to add one more in there, just for support, you absolutely can. It's up to you. Over time, as they wear and tear with the weather, it gets wet, it gets dry, and so forth and so on. They do sometimes bow out right in here. So you can do that if you want to. If you're going to, that's going to be 7 3/4. But the next thing we're going to work on is the landing pad, and that's going to be on a 45-degree bevel, and that has to be cut out of 1x8. So 1x8. Put these back up. So we're going to use 1x8, and let me get set up on that. Okay, so I've got the saw set up on a 45, as you can see right there. It's a little bit dirty. I really need to clean everything up. But anyway, it's on a 45, so the blade is on a 45. And I've got the sacrifice board in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to rip a 1x8. Now this is a 1x8, not a 1x4 no more. We're just going to take it, and then we're just going to rip it right along that edge, just like so, all the way through, so that we have a 45 on this edge here. So let me go ahead and run that through, and then I'll show you what's going on there. So we got a 45 bevel on that side of the board, and this is going to be the back side of the board. So in other words, this is going to sit on there like so. I don't know, hopefully you can see that on the camera, but it'll sit just like that. So what you need is you need this measurement from here to here, which is usually going to be about 5 inches or 5 1/16 or 5 1/8, somewhere right around 5 inches. Mine measure, you know, because you got different thicknesses boards. You got 3 9/16, 3 1/2, 3 7/16, you know, different size boards. I'm gonna make all mine 5 inches. So I'm gonna pull over. I'm gonna put the one on that edge there, that 45 degree, the short of the bevel. Let me show you here. So from the short of the bevel, I'm gonna put the 1 inch mark on there, and then I'm gonna mark 6 inches because I want 5 inches. So I'm gonna go 6 1/16. Cause that's what I want on mine. 6 1/16. And that's going to be to the short. And so what we want to do, so that's my short mark. Let me bring it down here where y'all can see it. That's the short. So I'm just going to draw a 45. Right here's my mark. Let me put it right here so y'all can see it. So I've got 5 from this short point to this short point, 5 1/16. So I'm just going to put the square on there and then draw that down. And that's going to be the long point, because that's what I got to use is the long point here. Because the bevel is this way. See, the same way. See, the bevel is this way. Bring it around. See how that is? So I've got to line up that long point there. And so what I got to do is I've got to move this over until it matches that mark. Now you can just take your deal and figure out where your mark is and draw a line all the way down it, and then use your regular table saw and just cut it on a 45, that being your short point. Remember, that's the short point. So you just take it and you just run your circular saw, put it on a 45, right, and then just rip it all the way down, and use your finger on the edge of that board for a guide as you rip it. Okay, so you can do it either way. I'm going to use the table saw, but like I said, you can do it either way. I'll be right back with you. So that's how your board will look when you're done. And that's the bottom of the board, so it'll be a landing board just like so. That the bees can come and land on and then go into the hive. But again, the only thing that matters is your short to short. It has to match your, just like so. See how it's there and there? It's perfect. So, you know, and then now all I'm going to do is cut my lengths. Now, understand that if you're doing, you know, different hives are going to have different measurements. So you're going to have on a 10 frame, you're going to need 16 1/4 inches, because that's how wide it is. Now this is going to go outside to outside. So you're going to need 16 1/4 on a 10-inch frame, 13 3/4 on an 8 frame, and 9 1/4 on a 5 frame. So I'm going to do 9 1/4 on mine, and I've got a square edge over here on this side. Because I had cut it for something else, but just to verify that it is square there. And all I'm going to do, I'll have extra, but I'm going to do 9 1/4, because on the landing board, it goes outside to outside of the frame. It doesn't go in between like these do. These all go inside that slot. Okay. These are going to go from the outside edge to the outside edge to each outside edge. So if we're looking at it like this, and let's say that's how wide the frame is, then it's going to go from this side to this side. It's going to sit on top of there just like that. So you need 9 1/4 on a 5 frame, which is what I'm doing here. So let's get that set back up. So I just marked my 9 1/4. And I'm going to do it on this side. Because it's hard to get your square on that side over there. And then I'll cut that off. Just like so. Make sure there's nothing underneath there. So I need to make 5 more of these, and one of them at 16 1/4, because I remember I'm making one of them a 10 frame. But just so you see how this all fits together, this short to short, so it's going to sit just like so, and that will be your deal. Or just let you look at it from the back side here. When it's sitting on there, it'll be just like that, and then the bottom board of your hive will sit right up against this and go that way. So that's how it's going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those, and I don't know yet. I may cut me a middle spacer to go inside there. It doesn't have to be 2 3/8. You can make it whatever you want, as long as it's shorter than 2 3/8. It could be 2 inches. It could be 1 inch. You could use your cutoffs. You could do whatever you want. If I were you, I'd just flush it to the very bottom, not the top. That way, you know, if you need it to help support everything, it's actually helping to support it. So up to you though how you do that. That's all the parts. I'm going to go ahead and cut 5 more of these, and I'm going to cut one of them at 16 1/4. The next thing that I do is I paint everything. So I'll see you guys in another day. Obviously I'll be wearing something else again, because my days are very, very busy, guys. When you've been down for 5 months, you're way, way behind on absolutely everything. So I'm trying to catch up financially. You know, I'll get there eventually, but I got to catch up financially. I've got to work the land. I've got to get all the land cut, the grass cut out there. I've got to get. I'm still working on the house out there at the land, which is where we're going to eventually end up living. That's where our main hives are going to be. That's where our homestead is. So, I mean, there's a lot that we got to do, guys. So, you know, I only have so much time to work on things. So you'll see me change clothes all the time. It's just because it's another day. I can't do everything in one day. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cut these 5. I'm gonna cut one of them 16 1/4, and then I'm gonna paint everything. Now understand that on the hive stand, you can paint the fronts, the sides, everything, inside it, everything. The bees never come into contact with the hive stand. The hive stand is the very, very bottom. They never ever come into contact with it, and you want it weatherproof. So go ahead and paint every side of it, and then we'll glue it all together and stick it all together. Okay, that's how I do it. You guys can do it however you want. You know, everyone's got their own way, whatever works best for you. There's one of our girls right there flying around, checking out the boxes over there, really. So I'll get back with you guys in the next video. Everything will be painted, and I'll show you how to glue and nail everything together. Love you guys. See you in just a little bit on the video. Okay, now for the final step, everything's painted. This is the 16 1/4. This is for a 10 frame nuke here. And again, this is the hive stand. It's the very bottom piece. But I'm going to show you how I put them together. You can put them together however you want to. It's definitely gotten colder, so it is what it is right now. I'll just take you get them squared up, I just use one of these square things here. And remember, your 2 3/8 board, I went ahead and made a center one to go in between in the middle here. But your end piece, the one I showed you how to cut, so all that does is make sure that it's perfectly square. That's the only reason I use that. You can use clamps, you can use whatever you want. You can use a 2-foot framing square, but I get them squared up. And I just use 1¼ inch T-nails. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. And the main thing on these is you want to make sure your top is flush. Make sure your top is, because the hive's going to sit on top of that. You can glue them together, do it however you want to do it. This one here, I just stick it somewhere in the middle, and then this one goes on the end here. So you're going to put your short of your bevels down. And the main thing here is you want to line up this short part to that tip right there. So you want to make sure that they're exactly the same. That they're in alignment just like that. Because let me nail it together real quick. If you have the middle one, that's up to you. Like I said, it's completely up to you. You want to flush the bottom, not the top, because it's going to act like a support. In fact, if you want to, you can put it wherever you want to put it. Let me pull it out real quick. I'm going to put mine right about in here. Okay, so on this one, we want to flush the bottom because it's going to act like a support. And then on this one, on this board here, you'll see my nail sticking out. I got to clip it off. But you want this part right here to be flush. Hopefully y'all can see that. You want that part right there to be flush, and that's your hive stand. So now the bees can come and land here, and then go in, walk on the bottom board and go in. So the next thing we'll make is the bottom boards. I'll show, this is a regular hive stand here. And give me a second, I'll throw one together for the short one. Okay, so for the 5 frame, again, I've cut, hold on, I got the wrong piece, hang on one second. Right, so you got the one that I told you guys to cut, and then this is going to be my middle piece. Again, everything's painted. So the one I told you to cut, again, you want the top of this board to be flush. And again, they're 1.25" T-nails that I'm using. You can use staples, you can use just regular nails, whatever you want to use. That's just to make sure it stays square. We're going to put this on here. Again, we're going to flush the short point to there. Keep the edge flush all the way down, whatever you got to do to make that happen. We'll flush this one up. So this one here is a little long. I'm gonna have to trim it a little bit, and then we'll put it in right there. And we can verify that it is a little long just by putting it back here where it goes. Mark it, and then we'll just cut it real quick. So I cut it. I'm not gonna go ahead and paint this one. We'll put it where it goes. Put it right about in there. Again, you want this board to be flush with the bottom. If you put it in, you don't have to, guys. It's just an extra support. So there's your 10 frame, and here's your 5 frame nuke. And that's how they look. So that's it, guys. That's everything there is to building a hive stand. And for a 10 frame and a 5 frame, I don't show you an 8 frame. I don't use 8 frames myself. You guys might, but I still got to go ahead and cut that nail and cut that nail. But you just take a pair of wire cutters, cut them off, or a pair of pliers and bend it back and forth, and then just tap it in, make sure it's good and flush. Anywhere you got a nail that's sticking out like this, there's a nail sticking out there. Hopefully y'all be able to see that. Just take a hammer and tap that in there, and you'll be done. So that's it, guys. That's your hive stands. And in the next video in this series, I'll make a playlist. The next video we'll be doing the actual landing boards, or the bottom board of the hive. And we'll talk to you guys then. Remember, get in the Word, stay in the Word, get the Word in you. Most important thing you could possibly do. And remember, other than the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the two most important things are love and truth always, and then peace and justice.